So welcome back to the show. So this bipartisan group late last night said that they've reached a deal with the White House when it comes to this infrastructure bill. But they were very, very careful with the words that they used. And so I say this with a question mark at the end. Have they reached a deal? That's what we're going to talk about today. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please hit the like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. Okay, so let's talk about this infrastructure bill and this bipartisan group. So the bipartisan group has indicated that they have reached a deal in principle for a $1.25 trillion infrastructure bill. So they're saying in principle, $1.25 trillion. What we need to kind of read between the lines is they've reached a top line number. That's basically what they're saying at this point. Senator Manchin himself said that they have a framework now. So not only have they reached a top line number, but they've agreed upon, okay, yes, we're going to have money for roads, bridges. We're going to improve broadband. We're going to add some other things. So they have that framework. So that's important, very important. Now, also, you have 21 members of the Senate that are in this bipartisan group. And that's really key. Because remember last week I was talking about this bipartisan group. There were 10 senators in this bipartisan group. You had 5 Republicans, you had 5 Democrats, but you need 10 Republicans in order to move forward with this infrastructure bill. Well, now they have 21 senators. You have 11 Republicans, which is great, and then you have 10 Democrats. You need those 11 Republicans, or at least you need 10 of those 11. So that is really good news. That's probably the best news that's come out of this whole bipartisan group thus far. Now, other things that we need to talk about. $579 billion. That's in new spending, new money. Now, President Biden initially, he wanted $1 trillion in new money. That was the last offer that he put on the table. Now it looks like it's about $579 billion. At this point, it looks like the White House is okay with that. They haven't really come out and said that this $579 billion in new spending is just not going to work. They haven't said that. And so if they haven't said it, that means that it's probably okay. We also heard from the press secretary yesterday, and she said that the meeting that the White House had with this bipartisan group was productive. Now, this is something that you'll hear a lot of politicians say that. Both sides, they'll say, yeah, it was productive. But she did indicate that. So that means at least there's some type of progress happening, and that's good. Now, this bipartisan group in the White House, they will meet today, and they will continue their negotiating. And hopefully we'll find out more information. Hopefully they'll come out with some more information about this infrastructure bill and exactly what's in it. But all this stuff that I talked about right now, this is all the good news. The bad news is we still don't know how they're going to pay for this. We still don't know the pay-fors. And that's the important part. The most important part is how are you going to pay for this? And I've been talking about this for the last month and a half. And they still have not come up with any type of real plan on how to pay for this. We know the White House's plan is they want to raise the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. We know that you have some Democrats that are not for raising the corporate tax to 28%. We know that Senator Manchin, who's a Democrat, said that 25%, he wouldn't go higher than 25%. So that might be where we are when it comes to a corporate tax rate increase. And then on the other side, you have Republicans saying that we want user fees. We want to increase the gas tax, or at least tie it to inflation, which in this point would increase the gas tax. They also want to have some type of a mileage fee for electric vehicles. So all these things, the White House they're not for any of this, because this would tax people making less than $400,000 a year. And President Biden does not want to tax people making less than $400,000 a year. So you have two red lines. You have Democrats saying no user fees, and then you have Republicans saying no corporate tax increase. And those are the major pay-fors. Now, you hear all this other stuff coming out. Well, we're going to repurpose money from the stimulus package, the last stimulus package, and all this stuff. But the reality is the bulk of the money will be coming from either a corporate tax rate increase or user fees. That's what we're looking at right now. And so with all this information coming out about they've reached a deal and all this, the framework, in principle, all this stuff that you're hearing, it's not going to go anywhere unless they figure out how to pay for it, unless they agree on a way to pay for this. And so that's what we're looking at right now. Now, why is this important? Why is it important? I continue to say this. This is important because it gets us to the next step. It gets us from this first infrastructure bill on roads, bridges, broadband to the American Families Plan. And that's where we're going to focus on some of the other things to help Americans. And we have things on here, and I have a list here. Free pre-K for 2 years. That's something that would help a lot of families, and it would help children get a head start. We also have free college, community college. First 2 years. This would help a lot of people who are going to college. I mean, when you go to college, those first 2 years, you're just doing the requirements, the state requirements. You're not even really focused on your major at that time. So you're paying, if you go to a 4-year university, you're paying a lot of money just to take state mandated courses. And you're not even focused on your major at that point. So why not allow people an option to go to a free community college, do those 2 years, and just get the state requirements out of the way before you start focusing on the core classes, the classes that you need for your major. Another thing they're talking about, extending the child tax credit. So the child tax credit will start July 15th. And families, parents will start receiving money, monthly payments, if that's what they choose, starting July 15th. The talk is they want to extend that until 2025. So it won't just be for 6 months like it is set up for now. It will be for 4 years. This is big for a lot of people. This is huge stimulus that will be going to families. They're also talking about improving Social Security, SSI, SSDI, veterans beneficiaries. That's still on the table. They're not talking about it as much now, but it can still find its way in the American Families Plan. Also, stimulus. More stimulus for the American people. Now, I'm not necessarily saying stimulus checks, but just stimulus, different programs to help people who are struggling right now. Stimulus checks, it's one of those things, and you guys know how I feel about stimulus checks. I think they're needed. However, at this point, you don't have too many politicians talking about stimulus checks. So we might not see stimulus checks, but we might see more stimulus for the American people. We might also see more funding, and I'm sure we'll see more funding for small business. That's something that they've been focusing on this whole time during the pandemic. I think they will continue to focus on this, and we'll probably see more money, more PPP funding, more EIDL loans, things like that. So that's what we're looking at in this American Families Plan. Plus, there are other things that we might start hearing about in the near future. But we need to get past this infrastructure bill, the first infrastructure bill. Once you can get past that, once you figure out if you can make it a bipartisan bill, that will mean you don't have to use reconciliation, and you can use reconciliation for the American Families Plan. And so that is what we're looking at right now. So although you're hearing the news that, oh, yes, they've reached a deal, at this point, there's a big question mark at the end of that because we do not know how they're going to pay for it. And until we know those specifics, this infrastructure bill is not going to go anywhere. And so we'll see what happens later today, maybe by Friday. They like to have things released on Friday, so we might hear more information. We might actually hear a deal on Friday. That would be great. We'll hear that, okay, they've reached a deal and this is exactly how they're going to pay for it. But we're going to have to wait for that because we don't have any information right now. We're going to continue following this, but this is very, very important. Now, I know stimulus checks was a big thing and people were anxious to receive these stimulus checks, and they were following different YouTubers because of stimulus checks. They wanted to know the latest. This is just as important because this is not putting money in your pocket, but this could take money out of your pocket if they have things like user fees. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification. You're going to get all the latest information when it comes to this infrastructure bill, as well as what they're talking about when it comes to the American Families Plan. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.